Chord Music Podcast. Today is December 4th. My name is Jay Croft, and I'm the host of your show. And today, with the fourth episode of the show, we're going to be talking to local singer-songwriter Matt Dmits. Matt's been playing songs in the Detroit area since the late 90s when we were in a band together called Giant. He's had a really successful solo career in the area since then, playing with lots of different people like Dupe and the Inside Outlaws, as well as many others. And this episode really focuses on the making of his new record, which is called Thinnest of Threads. And the first song you heard as we started the episode is called Sticking Around. I thought it would be appropriate to play a song of his versus the typical Warm Chord Music theme song here. So that's just a taste of what you're going to hear on this podcast. We're actually going to play clips from probably 4 or 5 other songs and talk about many other songs. So this is a really cool episode if you want to know kind of what goes into making a record like this, the inspiration for the songs, really how long it took to put it together. This is some pretty cool information about just how this whole thing came together, the production side of it, the what's behind the songs, some really cool stories you're going to hear about. So without any further delay, here's my interview with Matt Dmits. All right, so this is Jay Croft here from Warm Chord Music talking to Matt Dmits.
Hi.
We are glad to have you here. What I wanted to do is just kind of talk a little bit about what you actually, where you got started from. So you and I used to be in a band together, right? Long time ago, like 97, 98, called Giant.
Yeah, a long time ago.
So when I met you, you were playing with James Anthony from the band that I used to jam with called 20 Mine. So I kind of knew him a little bit from that. Didn't know you at all. And then from there, after that whole era was done, you've kind of done your own thing from there. Talk about kind of what that's been like for you.
We played together, and that was good times, man, playing with you all those years ago. I'm glad we're still doing all this in some capacity at least. So we did the Giant thing for till about 2005, 2006. And played a lot of shows and did a lot of traveling. And after we got done with that, we all sort of kind of looked at each other, and I suppose we decided we were ready to be done when we knew that we could just keep doing this and make enough money to keep doing it, or just to keep going. And I don't think it was worth it for any of us to keep on doing the Giant stuff. So.
You guys were running hard for a while. I mean, even after I left, you guys were playing lots of shows, and not just local shows, but you guys were doing a little bit of traveling, right? I mean, we did the whole van thing, and sleeping in the van and driving through the night and all that kind of stuff. So, it was nice to get a taste of all that, that kind of life. And but I think that we maybe reached a point where we all started to maybe want a little bit more than what was going on. And, you play for long enough and you start to kind of grow a little bit, and it sort of seemed like something that maybe didn't fit, some of us anymore. Myself, I wanted to write more songs that had a little bit more kind of lyrical content, a little bit more, meaning, I guess, or I want to reach out to people more lyrically. Giant was more of a real instrumental, jammy kind of band, and I wanted to do a little bit more. I kind of wanted to speak to people a little bit more, when it came to lyrics. So I was trying to I'm starting to inch in a singer-songwriter direction, and James, who was the other part of Giant, I would say it was kind of he and I's baby, I suppose, for a long time. He was at that time, he was really heavy into the jazz stuff and all that. And it was something that I enjoyed doing, but I kind of felt called to go and try to do a little more in a different direction. So I think as things went on, we just sort of found ourselves less and less interested in kind of meeting in the middle, I suppose. And so when that finally happened, after 10 years, you get really used to working with people. So
I didn't know what to do. So for about a year and a half or 2 years, I didn't even pick up a guitar. And then you and I started playing together for a little bit in your basement, kind of goofing around. And right around that same time, I met a guy named Don Dupree at an open mic in Allen Park, at Simon's. I just happened to bump into him there. I saw that they had an open mic, and I wandered in there one night, wanted to go and play some songs again. And he's a local singer-songwriter that's just awesome. I can't really say enough good things about him and what he does. And he's a real inspiring guy to be around. And I think I met him at the right time. We had a lot of mutual interest. And so we started writing songs and, recording together and doing things together. And I still co-write with him now. And we've been doing it together for, quite a long time. So I played guitar. Nowadays, I play guitar in his band occasionally. I play guitar with other writers.
There's like a whole community that is going on right now, in Detroit, like the scene that, it's been there for a while, but I mean, I hadn't heard anything about it until you really got involved in it. Now there's other people that I'm friends with that have played with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like our whole circle of friends. It's like everyone started to play with each other. It's pretty neat to see that.
Yeah, it is. And it's cool to see people, who maybe you haven't run into in 15 years, which is kind of how I wound up playing with the guys I play with now, Eddie and Ryan, at least. Guys that I knew from years ago playing in your band, I ran into them at Jacoby's downtown. And we just started picking up and playing together. And that's, I wound up recording my, this record that I'm about to release now with Ed Sertage. So, yes, it's been a pretty cool journey. It's kind of like a real back around, sort of long way around kind of thing to making a downriver record again. So
yeah. Now this is your second full length record, right?
No, it's my first full length. The first one that I put out that with my name on it was an EP, 6-song EP called "Bury Me," with my guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that one in 2012. So it's been a few years, and I don't really have anybody beating the door down, waiting for me to release a record. So I can kind of take my time, and we did, and, put it down for a while and picked it back up. And
yeah, I mean, talk about that. I mean, that when your last record came out, you've had what that was. You said 2012.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now it's 2017, right?
Yeah,
so you're kind of like following almost like Metallica, like rate of like releasing music here, right?
I am.
It's but you've amassed quite a bit of songs, and you probably have 11 songs on this record that you're putting out, from what I could tell from the tracks you sent me.
Yep.
You probably have easily 11 more if you wanted to. Yeah,
I mean, between the songs I've co-written with other writers, Don Dupree and, some of the other writers that I've worked with, Ty Stone and some of the other guys that I've had the luxury or pleasure of working with or whatever. I mean, I've written quite a bit, which is, it's what I love. It's what I love to do. Like that's the direction I wanted to go in, and it's been a beautiful thing for me, so, it's been putting this record together. Part of that process was paring it down and trying to figure out what songs should have gone on it.
Yeah. So. I mean, a lot of times, I think we both can probably speak from experience with this. Like the first time you go in and record something, and it's the first release under that name, it's like the best of what you have. Like this is everything we've got, and we nailed it down to these so many songs, right? But
you're going to throw everything you have
right
at a record and hope that it's enough.
Now, this is like writing for a new record. Like you actually had to put material together, for this, right? Or did you already have these songs that you didn't use the last time you recorded?
So there's a few songs that I didn't use. 2 songs that I had written before, that I didn't put on the Bury Me EP. And I don't know why. I think maybe at the time I wasn't as confident about the songs, or maybe I didn't feel like they quite fit with what was going on there. I don't know. And so then there were some other songs that you know, that kind of were written in between or right around the same time after I had released the Bury Me stuff. And then there were songs that were actually written, I guess, during that process that I wrote not even with the intention of putting them on the record, but they grew into what they became, and they became something that I felt like, wow, this is something that really sort of fits in with everything that's going on here. Sort of, it's part of that narrative of the record. So it. I don't know how they all sort of came together. I know that there's a lot of writers who will sit down and they say, I'm going to write a record, and there's going to be this sort of sequence to it. And I guess I respect that way of writing. I wish I could write like that. But for me, I'll write a bunch of music, and I feel like you can't help it that if you're writing, say, for a period of 3 or 4 years, if you write a whole bunch of songs, you know, you're writing within the context of your life at that time. So it all fits together. You just have to find a way to figure out how it fits together.
I used to try to write that way, try to think I'm gonna write 5-6 songs, and I'm gonna just write it for this one release, and I want it to have this cohesive sound to it. You know, and every time I try to do that, it would go the complete other direction. It didn't work. And I ended up finding out that I actually did the opposite. But when I sat down and did the last 3 Warm Chord songs, one of which I haven't actually released yet, didn't even think about it. And I have 3, you know, pretty fast-paced punk rock songs that all kind of fit together. Don't sound the same, but work together. It's more of a subconscious thing. Yeah. And it's like if you try too hard, it ends up working against you, I find.
Yeah, you can't be too goal oriented, you know. Like I mean, it's good to have goals, but you can't have too much of a picture of maybe what you're going to wind up with, because I think you can lose sight of all the little cool things that are happening right out in front of you, you know. And so for me, like, I've always written a song about, you know, and I sometimes don't even know what the song's going to be. Till I start to play with it and write it, you know, and you know, I just try to write, and then what comes of that, you know, comes of it. And I suppose if it fits with other things, great, you know, and if not, maybe one day it will. I try to do it really kind of one song at a time, you know. But then what I have discovered, like I said, I mean, is that they find their own way of sort of fitting together, and they play off of one another. And I think it's a cool way of thinking about it. You know, it's almost like you're taking a little Rorschach test or something of how you're feeling about things as a writer, you know, at the time. And that creates a cool challenge too, to try to piece those things together. And that's been a lot of the fun of this record, you know, too, is going, okay, well, I wrote all these songs these last couple of years, and certainly there have been things that have happened the last couple of years that have truly affected me and definitely bled into the writing that I've done. And so I wait until I see what I have in front of me, and I go, this looks, and you step back and you sort of can see where these things fit together if you think about it.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So you know, like, both of us are married, have a couple kids, you know, have good jobs, stable, you know, situation for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you write about? I mean, how do you go about when, like, because I know you and I both write completely differently, because you're more in that singer-songwriter type genre. I don't want to pigeonhole you into a area.
Come on, Jay, what are you doing, man?
You're definitely you're not into the whole metal thing, right? So obviously, what would you put yourself in that singer-songwriter genre? What genre would you say you're most comfortable with?
Yeah, probably singer-songwriter, roots rock kind of stuff.
So you're writing your vocals and your lyrics while you're constructing a song as one whole piece of music. Are you when you're writing lyrics, for example, like, are you writing lyrics while you're writing your vocal melody and your guitar part? Or are you doing that separately?
No, I think it starts with lyrics.
Really? Okay.
But not always. I would say that I start probably with writing lyrics.
That's
thinking
just,
about words and
that's so foreign to me. But that is, to me, I wish I could do that, because lyrics are like the very last thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's awesome. So you actually have a concept in your mind about what the song's going to be about before you even really.
Yeah, I like songs like having it. I like to think about things as far as like a story. I like to have an idea or a situation that I'm writing about that, I don't know, jumps out at me for some reason. Something somebody said to me, or something I've heard, or something I've learned, or whatever. And I think like the music part of it tends to come later, but not always. There are times when maybe when something is in the front of my mind and I pick up a guitar and, I start banging away at some chords and it just sometimes just comes out, lyrics and music and everything at the same time. That's always really great when that happens.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always happen like that. For most of the time I have maybe lyrics that I will start out with, and I'll write them down, and then I'll forget about them, and then I'll look at them again, when something else is on my mind. And usually the music and the lyrics, they start off as two separate things, and I'll sometimes think of a real cool, like, little guitar riff or something like that, and then I'll look back at those lyrics, and that's usually, if I'm piecing it together, that's kind of how it goes. It's tough because you have to make it work with the words, and that's not always easy. That's the hard part about songwriting, is people have a way of speaking in a rhythm to the way that they speak,
Yeah.
and to take that and to match it with music, sometimes it matches perfectly, the way that somebody says something, the way that the words come out of it. But then other times it doesn't. It's hard to get it together. So I don't know.
So why a full length? Why not do the whole, let's release a few songs, do an EP, wait another, 3 months, do another EP. I mean, why do a full length album? And which is, that you and I grew up in the era of, we loved our records, the full length, listen to it. It's an experience. Nowadays you see so many independent artists just releasing EPs. Why not go that route?
Well, probably because of what you just said. Like, I grew up listening to something a little bit bigger, and I suppose I liked the idea of, the challenge of taking 11 songs and, with each song you add, it becomes that much harder to tie it all together. And I guess I like the idea of making a 12 song, LP or 11 song, whatever, the kind of thing that I grew up listening to. I guess it's home for me. When I put the EP out, there was a part of me that I felt like just an EP, like almost like defeat, and so, I mean, that's not to say that the next time, won't be an EP, 6 songs, 5 songs or whatever. I just, for this one, I like the idea of letting something really kind of develop. And I also looked at the songs that I had at the time, and I thought there's something here, and if it fits together thematically, then go for it, so.
And this was recorded over what period of time?
We started doing demos, like early demos for this, in the summer of 2012. And the whole thing kind of got shelved for a while. I had somebody real close to me died. My brother died in 2012, in October of 2012. And it never derailed my desire to play music or anything like that. But it definitely, when that happened, I sort of just stopped, and I had to stop, for a while and just, I suppose maybe focus on other things, my own mental health and that kind of stuff. And, step back and kind of just think about things, in a big picture sort of sense. And so I don't think we got back to it until maybe late in 2013. And we started to go, okay, well, we need to start working on this thing again. So it was almost like starting over. Like the early demos on this thing, there were songs that, I will still play out occasionally and things like that if I'm solo, but that really didn't, it sort of changed the direction. That event, I suppose, changed the way I think about writing, and how could it not, so it sort of turned everything in a different direction, and changed the focus of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And so it was almost like we started over again, maybe late in 2013, and it took quite a while to get back going. And I want to say we did about 4 songs at a time. So late in 2013, I think we demoed out the first 4 of the songs that are on the record, and then we went back and did the, bed tracks for those drums and bass and some of the guitars and scratch vocals and that sort of thing. We worked on those 4, and then there was sort of a lull for a while, and then we really started picking up speed. Took quite a while after that. I'd say we really started kind of picking up in the summer of 2016, where we really started sort of pushing. And I think at that point I was like, we got to make this thing happen. And in between that time, there were songs that were written that fit perfectly in with the record. I sort of felt like it was like they bound everything together. And so I felt like, okay, we have ideas here now, and this thing can actually, it can't just be, 11 random tunes. I mean, it had like a real sort of cohesion to it, ideas and threads running through it that made sense. And so it was at that time that we really started moving. But, like you said, I work a full-time job. I got 2 kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other guys that I work with, they're all working dudes. And so we wanted to take our time, and we wanted to do it right. And so it took us a while, but here we are, here we are now.
So kind of a personal question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but, with the whole loss of your brother, Ryan, did you end up finding did you end up having any songs that came from that experience that ended up on this record, or anything in particular that, when that happened, did you end up writing any music out of that experience?
No, I've written songs. I've written some music since then, and I think there's no way it couldn't have rubbed off on it. But I've never tried to go right at that issue with any song that I've written. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I feel like at this point, at least, that I can do any justice to what that was like, or, I try to, I suppose, pay tribute to him in little ways, in the songs that I write, but I've never gone after it directly or done it in a way that's personal and direct, or where people could look at it and go, oh, that's a song about Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
I just, I'm not sure if there's really, at this point at least, if there's words for it, and it's been years now, but it still feels, pretty fresh. So it's, I guess, I want to be able to, allow the experiences that I've had to bleed into my writing, you know, without maybe being too autobiographical, you know. I don't know if that's a good way of it, you know, explaining it, but it, I think there's no doubt that it has affected it, and a lot of the music that I've written, with him in mind, but I don't know if it's if it's in a way that that really is direct, you know, or you know,
it's not been like this conscious decision of, hey, I'm going to write a song about this.
No.
Yeah. And I can imagine that would be extremely tough to try and do. But I mean, you know, I'm sure, like, you know, you look at any song that, you know, is something that has deep meaning to you, you can draw something from it and say, you know, I can see how, like, for example, you know, I watched this documentary that Dave Grohl did on the Foo Fighters. You know, it's something that came out, I think, a few years ago, called Back and Forth. And he had made a mention of, you know, like when he first started the Foo Fighters, every single reporter and interviewer would ask him when the Foo Fighters first came out, is that song about Kurt Cobain? Is that song about Kurt Cobain? It got to the point where it got ridiculous. Like, no, it's not. Doesn't mean I'm not thinking about him, but no, and don't ask me again. You know?
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, it, you know, when I look at, say, for example, in the record, you know, Ryan died of a drug overdose, and there's a lot, for as much as I think I know about what happened to him, there's certainly a lot more that I don't know. And there are people that have, you know, that he's been around, and the situations that you know that he has found himself in, that I'll never really know much about. You know, people sometimes, you know, in the writing that I do, there's a song, that same song, Not a Word. It's a song about keeping secrets, and it's a song about, you know, a lot of people think it's about like somebody, I don't know, killing somebody or something like that, but it's not really. I mean, it's not a song about stuffing somebody in the trunk of a car. It's more a song about looking at somebody and sort of saying, hey, we can't ever talk about this, you know? And so, you know, when I wrote that song, I wasn't trying to be in any way sort of, you know, I wasn't trying to tell my brother's story, but it was a song that where definitely, if I'm picturing, you know, secrets and secretive situations, there's no way that he doesn't cross my mind, you know, in a situation like that. And so, like, that song is sort of about desperately trying to hold on to a secret, you know, and maybe even overtly threatening somebody that they better not ever tell somebody else about what's going on. It's in there, you know, but it's not overtly, I guess, or like, it's not just out in the open, a song about my brother. But
right.
Certainly that experience definitely shaped a lot of the songs in this record, you know.
Well, what's amazing, when I listen to the record, even again today, all the way through, it's crazy that it was started so long ago, because it sounds so cohesive. Like, I mean, you were involved in it, so I don't know how you feel about it, but when I listen to it, I don't notice, hey, it's pretty clear this song sounds way different. It sounds like it was recorded at a different session or a different time. Like, each song has its own character to it and its own textures. I want to talk about that a little bit, because I made notes on,
all right, cool,
like, numerous songs and things that I picked out of it. But from the first song to the last song, and I don't know if I have the right track listing or whatever, but it all fits together, and I don't notice any sort of a difference from something that you might have recorded 4 years ago versus this past year.
Well, I think that has to do too with Eddie, like, and the production
at Sertage,
yeah, at Wordshed Studios, and that has a lot to do with, you know, the time that he spent, you know, in mixing it and going back and kind of making sure to look at the songs and not necessarily letting something just be all right, you know, or let something be what it was when it was done. You know, I think there was always more that could be done, you know, and like I felt like I was the one probably who's like, let's go, let's get this thing done. I want this thing pressed. I want to give it to people. I want it out. I want it. You know, he was the one that was probably the voice of reason, you know, and he was the one that was saying, you know, no, we got to slow down. We got to make sure that this thing's done right. And so, you know, we did go back and open up a lot of those songs and do things with those songs, even though some of it, the bed tracks and some of the tracks are as old as they are, you know. But it was something that we did go through track by track, everything, you know, to make sure that we had what we wanted.
Well, let's go through some of these songs.
Okay.
Dandelions. So this is a song that I think I remember hearing you play years ago.
Yeah.
When you and I were just jamming some stuff that you had written, and I don't know if we played this together, but I know I played one show with you at the Painted Lady in Hamtramck, and It was me, you, and Ed, I think. I think it was just the three of us, right?
Yeah, it was.
And you were testing some of these songs out, and you wanted to know like what it would be like to do it with the full band, with electric, not just acoustic, the way you've been doing it, and play it out. And I believe, this is my crazy memory kicks in here, it was like the last game of the World Series the Tigers were playing when they lost. This was 06.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if this was one of the songs that you had back then, but I do remember you playing this song for me. What is this song about? Like, talk me through a little bit of what Dandelions is all about, and how long has this song been kicking around for you?
I wrote this song. I wrote right after. It must have been right after I met Don Dupree, because I remember I remember playing it for the first time for a guy named Brian Irwin in Don's basement, and he was asking me, kind of going through like some of these songs, like, what have you written? And that was one of the newer tunes that I had messed around with, and I probably maybe first had the idea for the song in, gosh, probably 04. That's the oldest, that is definitely the oldest song on the record. And
I knew it.
And so what's it about? It's kind of about, I'm picturing many years in the future, you know, and I sort of picture being old and being, you know, being lonely and being without anybody, you know, and there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, that shuffle around in their houses that are old and forgotten about. And I think it's a song that's kind of scared of that idea, you know, that there could come a time where you really, nobody knows who you are and nobody remembers you. And so I'd say, you know, that song probably, it really kind of deals with some pretty dark, I guess, themes in it, but it, you know,
there's a line in that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's a line in that chorus that I picked out, not seeing the lyrics, but it sounds like you're saying, you know, let's die in the same place, or,
yeah, you
know, because I don't want to be alone, or I don't want to ever be alone.
Right.
In the chorus. And I remember hearing you play the song for me when you first had it, and it was just the acoustic version, but with all the production behind it, you know, it's the first word that comes to mind is lush, like the reverb sound of the guitar. You know, I checked with Eddie to find out what the hell reverb he was using, because I had to find out.
Yeah.
And he said it was Mr. Black's Supermoon.
Yeah.
Now, I never heard of that pedal before, so the first thing I did is looked it up, and I'm like, man, I've never heard of this thing before. Warbly. It reminded me of, and I went back and listened to it, and I guess it's not the exact same sound, but it reminded me of Creep from Stone Temple Pilots, the first album, Core.
Yeah.
Not the song, but the reverb sound, right? And the textures. And I'm like, man, this song is like so like lush. Like, it's got all this the song is very strong on its own, but when you add in all this texture to it, and then that chorus hits, the chord changes right when you say, because I don't ever want to be alone.
Yeah.
It literally made the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Oh.
Like that doesn't happen very often, and I'm a more of a hard rock, punk rock, metal guy, but I appreciate what you do. But the words mixed in with the song, I don't think the words could have mixed any better with the sound of the music, and the production.
That was all Eddie. I think Ed really was adamant about that song. Ed would tell you, he would say, I have a vision for this song. He would say that over and over and over again, and I was kind of like tease him about that because
I have a vision.
Yeah, I have a vision. Like, come on, Phil Spector or whatever. What are you talking about? But he did, and I have to give him all the credit in the world because, it does. The song has a really lonely, creepy, vibe to it. And it does. The production, I think, maybe captures the dark dreaminess of what the lyrical content's trying to get across. And so that I would, if he were standing here, I would be like, you need to ask this guy about that.
Right.
Because he's the one that, really went after something very specific, with that song.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and play that piece from that song real quick.
All right.
Step down an empty hall, quiet as the leaves that fall on this house and on us all, one by one. When the time comes, oh babe, let's die at the same time, 'cause I don't ever wanna be alone. It's you and me. Count to 3. Leave it all in a letter to the family. Had a dream of sad sounds and a songs have written.
So what I hear is, the crescendo, the cymbal swell. Mm-hmm. I hear your background. Is that you singing backgrounds?
Yeah.
So I hear like the ahs in there, and it's like nothing is like sticking out in the mix to where it's like, oh yeah, I can hear that. It's, if you listen really carefully, you can hear all these things. If you took it away, you'd notice immediately it's gone.
Right.
Which is great. But did you, and Ed, you said Ed, had some ideas for this. Did you come into this thinking production wise, I've always heard this song doing this, or was that really more of just him thinking of some production ideas?
No, I mean, we got in there and, I remember the ahs on that particular day, it was like
The ahs were flowing.
And so I don't remember if it was him or me, that was like, that's what we need instead of like a bunch of, backing vocals that follow the lyrics, we need to do the oohs and ahs thing. But, I remember having a lot of fun with that at the time. I think I couldn't tell you exactly, the parts where where he would go, we should do this or I should do this. But I think that once things started taking shape, I think we both had I could see exactly what he wanted to do. And I was able to, sort of jump in and say, well, this needs to be here. If we're thinking the same thing, then this is, if I'm thinking what you're thinking, you're thinking what I'm thinking, there's a part in the guitar solo where those oohs and ahs come in again, and I remember that being something I was like, oh, we gotta put those there. We have to make sure that we put that in there in the second half of the solo because it just takes it up that much more, and it fits in with everything else that's going on. So I definitely have to give most of the production credit, on that song, to him, because if it were up to me, I would have made it sound like a Neil Young song or something with an acoustic guitar and like a steel or something like that, and try to make it airy and creepy in that way, I suppose. But and I think he did, like, I couldn't imagine a better.
Yeah, I think the production, like the time spent on the production of that song, honestly, I think it's going to appeal to a wider audience, in my opinion, just because, you've got people who, and I don't know too much about your genre of music. I don't listen to a lot of it other than you, and some others. But, for me, like, I really enjoy hearing all the instrumentation and hearing I hear those little production things, and like it gets me interested in, like, oh man, like I wonder what else is going to happen. Like I wonder what else, versus, I mean, like if you can, and you can, but if you can nail just you and your guitar and a room and capture that moment, that's great. For me, like, I think that's great, but when I hear the other stuff around it, that's great too.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's cool. You have a balance on this record because you have a couple songs that are much more stripped down.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. That's another thing I really like about it is it's
dynamic. It's a dynamic record.
And even this song, I mean, this song, I think when a lot of people think about production, they think about, Ed did a really good job in this song of respecting the air in the song, and it never feels crowded, which I think is something that you hear a lot with people who have an unlimited amount of time in a studio. They just go nuts, and they're like, how much shit can I cram into this thing?
Well, you just bought a $300 plugin and you got to justify figuring out where you're going to
do. I spent all this money. I just bought this guitar. I have to.
I've got to find a way to get it in there. No,
exactly.
I hear you. Who played the guitar solo on that song?
I did. He did. He hooked up the fuzz and the tones, and so I would be kind of working through the guitar solo. I think we ran the guitar solo, what would have been sort of a scratch guitar solo initially, and it's pretty close probably to what we wound up doing. It was really close to the guitar, the solo that you would have heard, in a live performance of the song before it was recorded. At least the first half of it, and then we came in and kind of hashed it out, and it was still pretty organic. I mean, it was kind of like, well, this is what I like about it, and let's play something along those lines. And so a couple of takes, and me playing the guitar, and Eddie's down there, tweaking on some $300 fuzz pedal that he had to justify using or buying. So that's how it went.
What do you remember? What amp you're using for that? For that song or for that solo?
I don't remember what amp it was, but I do know that it was a Ren and Cuff fuzz pedal, because that's what Eddie brought in that day, and that's what had to be used on that thing.
There you go. I'm
pretty sure it was the Ren and Cuff, some kind of purple Ren and Cuff fuzz pedal. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Ed.
You remember what guitar you're using for that one?
Yeah, I used a 335. I have a black Gibson ES3. You can hear the black in it too, so you can hear the black in the tone. No, 335. Treble channel, always,
Yeah, I mean, I found myself either writing this down or saying this to myself a lot is, with the guitar tones, I feel like I'm in the room. Like there's a lot of room ambience. There's like a lot of, I mean, I don't know how much of that is, room mics, how much of that is reverb. I mean, it sounds, you really sound like you're in the room, which in a lot of the music I listen to, I miss that. Like, I don't get that. Like there's, quadruple track guitars or everything's close mic'd. And, I still love the first Van Halen record where you've got, the close mic on the right, and you've got the reverb or you got the room sound on the left, or it might be vice versa. But I love that. Like, I love that about those old records. This record has a lot of that. It has a lot of you really can hear, the sound of the room.
I think it's important to have like a sense of space, at least in the kind of music that I play. It's I want people to maybe feel like that they're getting something that's as live, I suppose, as possible. I don't know how live you can be in a studio record, I don't know, but
it does sound like, a band's playing it though. I mean, it's, you're right though. I mean, there's a lot of studio trickery going on with more and more people having access to tools in their house and doing everything like that. You missed that. I mean, how much of this was played together? Did you guys play any of this together in the room, or how was it tracked? This song.
This song was tracked with me playing an acoustic guitar in the room with I shouldn't say in the room, behind a glass
in the control room.
In a if you're familiar with Woodshed Studios, you have your main sound room, and then there's a drum room. And I believe Greg and I, the bass player, Greg Beyer, who's an awesome musician, bass player, like I can't even begin to tell you how talented and prolific that guy is. He was in the room with me playing bass.
In the drum room.
In the sort of the sound room, and then Ryan was behind the door in the drum room.
Oh, okay. I see.
Playing the drums.
Gotcha.
So
Ryan Looney played drums on this one?
Yeah, yes. And so the three of us, we started off with that. But so yeah, I mean, most of the songs when we did them, it was done in 3-piece and kind of built from there, So that song, I would love to be able to tell you that we had, 6 people, doing it, but it really it wasn't. There are some songs on there where what you're hearing is the scratch guitars and scratch vocals, and it was just we were like, I like that, and so we kept it. But that one was a song that was kind of looked at piece by piece.
Right. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Next song. What song starts the record off?
Let me see. Let me have to think about this for a second. Bad Things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so truth, I did not know that before I asked you this question, but the first thing I thought of when I heard this song was this song. I hope this song starts off the record.
Okay, why? I wonder why.
Because the first thing I thought of when I heard this song was I was stepping into a Western movie.
Okay.
A cowboy movie, okay? And I'm thinking that would just be the most badass way to start a record off, And I don't know what the song's about, I don't know if you meant that purposely, like the sounds of the guitar, like when it, do. Like
yeah, it's supposed to sound maybe villainous, sort of, kind of like.
The first thing I thought of was, pardon me, I've been watching a lot of Westworld lately, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Okay, that's a great show.
But the first thing I thought of was like Clint Eastwood, or like, or some, whatever, whoever you want, John Wayne, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like camera, from the back, and you just see this badass cowboy just, walking through, the desert or something, it's like the first thing I thought of was just, then Bad Things. I'm like, okay, what's this song about? Is it about like an outlaw or something like that, or what's the song about?
No, well, I mean, it's a song. It's really, that song is about 2 different situations, and it's kind of a song. I mean, it's really sort of a song that points out that people aren't always good, I guess. I mean, that we like to think we are, or like we have all this kind of self-righteousness, but at the end of the day, I think, people do things for sort of selfish reasons. And so the song starts, it's in the first one, it's, I always pictured it to be kind of like a bank robber or somebody like that who's walking into a place and demanding some money. And that one's pretty literal. You know, I mean, it's like the guy's got a pistol in his, you know, his coat pocket, and he's walking into a bank and basically making his demands, you know, in the first verse. And the second verse is a song, there's a lady who's, you know, about to go, you know, cheat on her husband or boyfriend, something like that. Whoever's waiting for her back at home and not really giving it a second thought, you know. That's pretty much. And I like the way it starts the record off, because I think that you know, being like with it being called the Thinnest of Threads, I think, you know, we sort of have these weird connections and things that kind of hold us together, and it's not always good things, you know. Like, we're sometimes, you know, the thing that keeps you going is the bad stuff, you know, and so it's not always the good things, the right things that, you know, that get us out of bed every morning. I mean, I think people are driven by strange and sometimes insidious sort of motivations, you know. So, and that kind of plays out throughout the record, you know, lies and secrets and all kinds of bad shit, bad things. So I thought that would be a perfect way to start it off. Yeah, just call it bad shit.
So was the guitar at the beginning like a conscious decision to make it sound like it was from like an outlaw type soundtrack or something like that? Like, I mean, did anybody think that when you guys were hitting those notes?
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I've always liked that kind of sound, that sort of
like a tremolo on, you know,
it or something? Little tremolo. I've always had a thing for, you know, Telecasters and tremolo, you know, cranked up on an amp. It's just, there's something about it that, yeah, it is, you know, it definitely comes from the West somehow.
That's what I heard, you know.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, he might say you're crazy, Jay, but
no, you're not.
But that's what I heard when I heard it. Like, it's like a damn Western movie.
Yeah.
Like, I love this. Like, It was like, to me, that was like cool, and I was hoping you'd tell me that was starting the record out.
Well, that's the one.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think you got them all out of order, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
right.
That's kind of cool. You know, I have no
We're
idea.
on the same page, man.
Yeah. See. All right. So we'll play a little bit of Bad Things right now. All right, so the next song I wrote some notes down for was Make 'Em Cry.
Yeah.
The guitars on this sounded three-dimensional to me. It was like, you know, I noticed it more at home than in my car. But when I was listening to it on my recording setup, the left and right guitars, the separation, like how different they sound from each other, made it just pop out. Like, it really was just a nice... I mean, the guitar tones on this record are great. That just easily some of the best guitar tones I've heard in a long time. I mean, especially for doing stuff the way you guys did it, where it was over a long period of time, where it's just having from song to song, every song has a really nice guitar tone to it, and they don't all sound completely different, but it's not like, it doesn't sound like you guys, you know, just wrote down the settings and said, okay, let's get the same sound we got from the last one. That's what's so impressive about it, is each song has its own character to it, and the guitar tones on each one are all great. This one in particular stood out to me.
Yeah, that one when we did a lot with those guitar rhythm tracks, and I know that I can testify that Ed probably spent a whole day like screwing around with guitar tones on just to get that left and right ripping kind of guitar tone.
When you were tracking or mixing?
When we were tracking.
See that, and that's huge, because when you listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that, you know, if you're into recording and stuff, you'll hear this too, but it's so important, you know, to try and get it right at the source versus just trying to fix it in the mix, because you can't get those kind of tones the way that you guys did just by trying to get it in the mix.
No. So there's tons of, I mean, I don't know how many amps we used.
The right ones.
We used a bunch of them. I mean, we used a bunch of Fender amps. I'm pretty sure that I know that we used an AC-15 and AC-30, and we used a couple Marshall amps.
I think I sold him that AC-15.
Okay, so there it is. And so, we definitely, and that's, I'm like, I have a certain type of sound that I like, and I'm not somebody who strays much from that, you know, and I think Ed's got a little bit more of a diverse background, you know, in the music that he's played. And so when it came time to like, okay, we need like a real chunky, you know, rhythm track on this, we want this song to really drive. I mean, I think that's where he was the one to go, okay, well, you don't need your twangy Fender for this, you know, what you need is, you know, something chimier, Marshall, or, you know, the Vox and stuff like that. So that was I probably have to say that's what you're hearing there on Make 'Em All Cry, those rhythm tracks. I played one of them. I know that he played one of them, but he was 100% in charge of the tones on those.
Proving Ground.
Yeah.
I heard an EBO like halfway through the song.
Yeah.
So that's something I've never heard before. I've never heard an EBO song used in a more singer-songwriter type song. I mean, how did that come about?
So like in the third verse, we knew that there was something that we needed to add, and I was pushing for an accordion. I wanted an accordion. You know, I wasn't to the point where I had lined up a guy yet, but I probably
to go all
would have
Weird
been.
Al Yankovic on us now.
I did, yeah. But I wanted something kind of droney, and I think he did too. I think we both sort of thought of it that way. I'm thinking, you know, what we could get. I've also played a lot with steel. Pete Ballard is the steel player in Dupe and the Inside Outlaws. I've played with him for a long time, and he plays on the record. And he was another one I was thinking, oh, you know, like something that could give me that kind of ghostly sort of droney background thing. It was the EBO, the 3-part EBO guitar mini, which is what it was, like guitar harmony, 3 parts. That was Ed's idea. And so did he call you and tell you like, hey, why don't you ask Matt about all these things that I did in the record?
No. But I mean, when I'm listening to it both from a songwriter, but a production standpoint.
I thought I was all about it. I mean, he said that that just sounded like the coolest idea, you know, and so.
But these are how records get made, though.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because you know it's a combination of a lot of different efforts. You know, it's you writing these songs and taking the time to, you know, come up with the concept of what it's going to be and bringing it to the studio, and then okay, now you've got your song, and now you've got to put all the other parts around it. So you're trusting so many different people, whether it's, you know, Ed to help with the production, you know, Ryan, you know, playing the drums on it, you know, other people that you brought in to play other instruments. You're trusting these people to hear the song that you have in your head and make it happen. You
know, I would say though, that this is, and you'll hear Ed's name over and over again, because, you know, the bottom line, I don't know. I would say that he worked just as hard, I think, on the record as I did. And it was most of the time we spent, you know, it would be him and I in the studio screwing around with, you know, what was going to work. And so, you know, it was a lot of figuring it out. And the Ebo stuff was probably, you know, some late night, probably a weeknight, you know, and we were in there just screwing around and playing around with you know, things that we thought would work, you know, things that we thought, you know, would sound cool, things that we felt needed to be in there. And so it was a lot of time, and it wasn't necessarily even a lot of like, you know, sometimes people will go in and have these disagreements and fight over how things needed to be. It wasn't even that. It was like messing around, you know, going in there and having fun with it and just getting into the process, you know. And I don't know if I would have been open to, you know, doing an Ebo part, you know, with somebody other than one of my good friends, you know, like, yeah. It's kind of an odd thing to throw in to a record like that.
Yeah, but that's what makes it
fits.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like I'm listening to him like, is that an Ebo?
Yeah, there's
I'm
three
like,
of them.
I'm like, yeah. So that was cool, man. I enjoyed hearing that. Probably my favorite. I'm kind of on the fence about it, but Saw You.
Yeah,
love that song.
Yeah,
it's just a great song. What is this one about?
That song is about the validation of suspicion.
Explain.
So like that song is about somebody being suspicious that they're, I guess if you take it kind of literally, it's a song about somebody who's following somebody else around on the suspicion that they might be screwing around. There's a lot of this going on in the record, a lot of like bad things. It's kind of so.
But this one's not a Western though.
This is not Western at all. This is really urban actually. The song, and that song is and basically what it's about is, you know, at first, you know, when I was writing, I wrote that song with Don Dupree, and I really like the idea of writing a song. I like creepiness in songs. I like songs to kind of be a little unsettling. You know, I don't know why, but
so dark and mysterious.
Yeah, but I like that in a song. Like I don't like songs to be just, I don't know, fluffy and nice. I want them to have I want people to listen to them and go, oh, you know, and kind of be a little bit taken aback by them. And that song, in the first verse, you know, initially what I wanted was the song to maybe sound like some guy who was obsessed with a girl and was following her around and watching her, you know, and that's a really creepy idea, you know. But I wanted the song to go along, and if you listen to the song, it's sort of, at first you don't know who this guy is and who the girl is. And in the second verse, you still, you know, the guy is like climbing up and watching this girl through a window, which is a pretty disturbing idea, you know. But what you find out by the time the song is over is that the guy is following his wife or his girlfriend or whoever, whoever this person is who's breaking his trust, and that's the person that he's following around. And, you know, everybody around him is saying, "No, man, you're crazy. That she wouldn't do that. You know, that's ridiculous." But his suspicions wind up being validated in the end. That he's not crazy. He's not the creepy one. He's right. You know, and this bad, you know, thing is going on. And so that's what the song's about. Lots of cool things in that song, though. That song really, that was one that was a later song that was written much later. One of the later, it might have been the last song. I have to think about it, but it might be one of the last songs that was written. That's on the record. That song was written while we were working on other parts of the record, And I found that after it was done, I was like, this fits in so perfectly with everything else that's happening, that it had to get in there. But the solo in that song,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What's going on with that solo and the cowbell behind it?
okay, so
This is not the reason why it's one of my favorite songs, but it definitely doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't hurt. No, the cowbell, you can't mess with that. It's like that song needed cowbell. It really did need cowbell. But so we came in, we wanted a strat. I wanted it to sound real sort of slick and I always think about like wet pavement when I think about that song. Like I picture like cars on dark streets and wet pavement. I don't know why. And whenever I think of like cars on dark streets and wet pavement, I always think about like
Cowbells.
No, I always think about Strats. I always think about like a real slick Stratocaster. I don't know why, but it's just the two things that think about them sometimes. They go together so perfectly. Anyway, Eddie has a Strat. He brings it in, and we plug it in, and we need some compression on it because I like it kind of Gilmore-ish and like a little bit of delay on it. And so we get a tone that we both really liked, and but we had no idea what the solo was going to be like. And so we run the song, and I played one idea, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. Well, maybe we should do this. And we ran the song again, and I played another thing, and I'm playing it, and I'm going, okay, this is pretty cool. And like, we get done, and I'm like, well, what about that? What did you think of that? And he goes, that was it, and that was perfect. And I said, well, let's try it. And he goes, we did it, we have it. And so what you heard was the first time I played the solo like that. And so I played it one way before, and it was pretty shitty. And then I played it a second time in a different part on the guitar, sort of up the neck, and that's what you hear when you hear that. So like that was one of those things that I didn't know the tape was rolling, and we recorded and it was done. I mean,
don't you love it when that happens?
Yeah, it's
kind of like finding like a $20 bill in your winter coat.
I know
although I had that happen to me last week and it was only $3, but yeah, I'll still take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Petty said even the losers get lucky sometimes.
There you go.
So we got lucky on that solo, and then it's just I don't know, the cowbell just sits so nicely in there. You can't deny that's a perfect. It screams for the cowbell.
Throwing cowbells and ebos and man, this record has everything. It's westerns and the hi-hat on this record, on this song, excuse me, it almost sounds like it's in both speakers. I don't know if it's like a delay or if it's like mono or what it is, but like for some reason, and maybe this is something that's, something I should ask Ed about, but
you should.
It was weird to me. Like a lot of times you hear it, just the click, the hi-hat is in, one or the other speaker, but it just sounded like it was really kind of holding things together.
Yeah, it's like and it's. I'm sure it's intentional. I've never really noticed that before, so you're telling me something about the record.
We'll play it, and then you can tell me if you hear it.
Okay.
Tell me if I'm nuts.
All right. Well, I know that it's the hi-hat takes kind of center stage in that song. Like there's parts where the hi-hat really kind of jumps out. I know that, there's breaks in the song. There's a lot of air in that song.
I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of room to breathe in that. So that's.
I thought you were going to talk about the snare in that song because I think that's probably my favorite snare tone in the whole record.
Yeah, I mean, did he use his Black Beauty for this or what?
I don't know.
Did Ryan play on this song?
He did, yeah. Ryan Looney played on this song. He played drums on the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we should talk about that a little bit. So Ryan Looney played drums on everything. Who played bass on this song?
Ed Surge played bass on this song.
It sounded like Ed just from the when he hits the higher notes in the verse. I don't know exactly what notes they are, but because I don't know notes.
It's
but,
a Sertage lick. You can tell.
It sounded like a Sertage lick. That's
it was okay. Yeah, it definitely was. You pegged that.
No, it's guitar tone again is great. You really can hear the room sound, which I was telling you before. It's there's a common theme throughout this whole record. You can really feel like you're in the room with it.
Yeah, I wanted less in this song. I mean, I didn't want this song to have a whole lot in it. I didn't want. I wanted for you to hear the drums. It's kind of like a God. You want. I wanted that to really.
It's a deep tone,
given a lot of breathing room, so everybody kind of gets out of the way for the drum tone in that song for sure.
That's right. Move away from those damn drums.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, get out of the way.
Cool. Couple more things I got. Thinnest of Threads. Vocals really stand out in that song.
Okay.
It's I don't know if it's the delay. What do you use? Like, what kind of effect is used on a lot of this record? Because I hear more delay sometimes than I do reverb on your vocals.
I could tell you that it's that there's like a tap echo, that goes on a lot. Like, it's a sound that I like. I don't know.
Like a slap back, but not too much. Right.
In a lot of older records and stuff, you hear it. It came from way back in like the Sun Studios days, when they weren't doing it on purpose, but it sounded too cool, and beyond that, there's not much I probably could tell you about it other than like how I sing it.
That song more so than some of the others that just stood out to me more.
Yeah.
The guitar lead in that, I don't know if you would call it a solo or not, but it's not very long.
Right.
But it's kind of has this like upbeat feel to it. Like it was really upbeat sounding type of lead.
We were kind of going for like the bar room sort of like barn burner feel to that song. And the lyrics of that song sort of are about somebody who almost cheats. It's a song about
all this damn cheating going on.
I know there's a lot of cheating going on in this record, but it's a song that it's about a guy who's like sort of talking big, and like, I'm out looking around like I'm not getting nothing at home or whatever. And he goes out and he's like, and if you listen to the song, he's like, he finds somebody and they're like checking each other out, and it's one thing's kind of leading to another, and and so it's supposed to sort of sound like maybe you're in the place, and that's what's happening. And then at the end of the song, and this is the title track of the record, at the end of the song, the thing that kind of holds this person together is what winds up winning the day. At the end of the song, he kind of comes to his senses, like, what the hell's going on? What am I doing here? Like, I need to get out of here. I need to go home. And so that's there's a lot of songs about cheating. There's a lot of stuff like that, and but I think like there should be more songs about people who almost cheat, because I think people who probably do that probably almost do quite a few times, maybe before they actually do. So I don't know. I always thought like, no, like in that one, I feel like that the good side of, that this person's better angels kind of prevailed in this situation. Like, he thought like, what am I doing out here? And so you talk about the vocals in that song. One of the cool things I like about the vocals in that song is the way that after the solo, it never the solo has this great big build at the end, and it never you expect the band to come back in and sort of just kick back in and rock it out one last time. But if you think about kind of what's going on in the story of the song, it becomes more intimate at the end, and at the very end, the vocals are really dry and very upfront, and the guitar is really dry and really upfront, and so it's sort of like you're in this person's head, at the end of it, and when he kind of realizes like, this is a bad idea, what am I doing? I need to get out of here, and so I from the beginning of the song, where the vocals are real wet and slappy, to the end of the song where they're right into the microphone. That was all kind of really intentionally done from a production standpoint.
Is that the end of the record?
No, that's the second song in the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I had written that down. Awesome dynamics. Like it just, the way that it ends, you don't expect it to end that way after that guitar lead.
No, yeah. It's like, I don't know how PG can I be in this podcast. It's kind of a blue balls ending. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be like, nope, no, it's not going to happen the way, it's leading toward, and I think like in the solo, it's like, yeah, like here we go, but then no, stop. Like this is foolishness.
You're getting like network television, not Cinemax.
Right. You're getting, yeah. Sorry. No, it's not going to happen for you this time.
No, it's that's great, man. So you said that is the title track then. That's the name of the album, Thinnest of Threads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then is this record out already, or when is it coming out?
Okay, so the release date is something that we're setting right now, kind of as we speak.
Who's we?
Me.
Just you,
actually.
Right?
Yeah,
this
me
is your thing, right?
People who I'm calling. This is all, yeah.
You and your peeps.
Yeah, me and my people, meaning myself, and that's it. No, but the record pressing process is kind of interesting, and pulling the artwork to get to the pressing. But it's being pressed at Archer Pressing in Detroit, which is pretty cool. I was happy to have it be kind of a home effort, and so as we speak on whatever it is, with November 2nd,
yeah.
Right? The inner sleeves for the record are probably at this point being folded, and the glue might be drying in some place in Florida where they're being printed. And as soon as they're printed, they will join the rest of the packaging, which is already at Archer Pressing. And I haven't spoken to Mike at Archer in a little while, so I'm not sure. The records themselves might already be pressed. So as soon as that packaging gets there, either they're already pressed and they're ready to be wrapped up, or he's got to actually press the records out. So I would like to release this thing no later than mid-January of 2018, but possibly as early as the holidays. Maybe we could squeeze it in late 2017. That would be if it were ideal. So
this is vinyl. What about digital? What are you doing for that?
So if you buy the record, you're going to get a download code for digital, and it's going to be released the same day digitally. It'll be available probably first on Bandcamp, and then later when I get my act together, all the rest of your digital platforms. So are you partial to any one particular distributor? Have you tried like anything else other than like CD Baby? Have you tried DistroKid or anything like that? No, I haven't tried any of that. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when we were younger, you're trying to put something out, obviously everything was just CD,
right?
Or tape, if we're aging ourselves.
Yeah.
But now, there's a lot of different resources out there, and some of them are just, they're the nice thing is there's actual competition out there now, where it used to be just pretty much CD Baby and that's it. And
right.
CD Baby does a great job. They have a different business structure, how they do it, and how they get your music to market. But DistroKid is a newer one, I guess, on the block, and they're actually sending your stuff straight to Pandora now too. It's still going through a curating process where they've got to do their thing with it. But I've been going the DistroKid route the last couple of releases I've done. And instead of paying so much up front, you pay by the year, but it's the same amount. I think it's like $20 a year or something.
Right.
You can release as many things as you want. There's no limit.
Okay. That's
so
cool.
I don't know, I'm curious what you decide, is the right choice for you, but those are the two big ones that I see. And then TuneCore has been out there for a while too, but they all get your stuff on iTunes, Spotify, and all that kind of stuff. So, but I mean, I'm interested to see the artwork. Is that who's doing the artwork for you?
So Brandon Moses is doing the artwork. He did the artwork on the Bury Me EP, and he's an amazing guy. He's has a level of attention to detail that I'm not sure if I've ever seen in any other human being, maybe other than Ed Sertage. He really kind of, he's like what do they call it when the actors, like when Robert De Niro drives around in a taxi for, I forget what they call that, method acting? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's the method actor of art, where he like takes the time. He made me send him a bunch of newspapers from the downriver area. He's not from here, but he wasn't happy with the fact that he wasn't from here. He needed to be to get a real feel for where I'm coming from and stuff. And there's a real sense of place on the record, kind of like I really wanted it to feel like where I'm from. And he picked up on that. And so he made me send him a bunch of newspaper stuff, and he read through all kinds of news stories out of the News Herald, which is
and how you can decide that out of all that, this is what your artwork's going to look like, Matt.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, and I can speak from experience working with Brandon on my logo on the website that's going to be launched, very soon, and the podcast stuff. He's done it all. I mean, so he's making his way. He's making his way through the downriver area now. He's worked with you and Ed now. So
he's but he is very, very good at what he did, what he does, and I can't wait to show it to people. I can't wait for people to see it, for people to hold it in their hand. And it's so close now. I couldn't be more thrilled. Yeah.
Well, anything else about the record that you wanted to let people know about?
No, they're gonna have to listen to it. But I would say I'm so excited about it. A few people have heard it, you being one of them, and I feel like so many great people contributed to it. And it's probably a good time to name, like Ed Sertage did the engineering and the mixing on it. It was mastered by Kim Rosen in New Jersey, Knack Mastering, and she's like pretty crazy. You could just go on her website and check it out. It's awesome.
Okay. So I'm curious to know how that came about, because I ended up finding out about Kim Rosen for my last Warm Chord release, Don't Tell Me What to Believe. And I had been using a guy named Carl Saff out of Chicago who did a good job for me, but I wanted to try something different. And she had mixed or mastered Bonnie Raitt's last record.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I heard her on this podcast, and sent my stuff to her. And I ended up, she's like, I'm going to give you 2 versions of it. I'm not going to tell you which is which, but tell me which one you want to go with.
Yeah, she did the same thing with me.
Yeah, did that, and she turned that damn thing around in like a day, right? And I think it took about a day. Now this is one song,
right?
And listening to the podcast, I knew how she kind of worked, and I'm like, this is going to be interesting. I get it back, and I'm like, holy shit, this thing sounds amazing.
Yeah,
like, I was like, I'm not used to hearing mastering making that big of a difference to me, because when Carl did, he did a great job, but it was a very flat master. And there was something about the low end that she just nailed on it. And I was like, I was excited. I was giddy, man. I was like so happy with it. So I sent it to Ed, and Ed's like, holy shit. Like, she really made this thing.
Well, Ed was the one that told me she's the one you want to go with, And I
that's cool. It made its way to you.
Yeah, it made. Like I think it came through you to Ed to me, Yeah, she was awesome.
The whole album she did.
She did the whole album, yep. And let me see. Pete Ballard played steel on it. Greg Beyer played bass on most of the tracks. Ryan Looney did all the drums. John Burrs did organ on a few tracks, if you're listening for that. Aaron Barndollar, a good friend of mine who I've known for many years. Yeah, he played some of the percussion that you're going to hear on the record. Trying to think of who else. Of course, I'm going to forget a name. And
you did all the Oz.
I did all the Oz. I think that's it. Did I name everybody? Yeah, that's it. But the people that worked on it, I mean, everything. They've a lot of heart and soul went into it, and so if there is, I mean, I'm so excited about this record, and I really, really hope that this isn't just the bubble that I'm living in that this reaches a lot of people, because I really do think it's something special.
No, it's great, man. I really enjoyed listening to it. I mean, it's you could tell there was a lot of effort put into it. You know, it was really well put together. The songs are great. You know, the music is great on its own, but then when the production, you add that into it, you know, it's almost a crime to say it's a local record, you know, because it sounds like something that, I mean, I don't even know what that means anymore. I mean, now that we have the tools that we do to do things, when we were younger, we didn't have access to what we do today, but I mean, it's amazing how good it sounds. So you guys did a great job on it. It was a lot of fun to listen to. Well, thanks a lot for taking some time. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Jay.
I'm excited to see the record when it comes out and getting a copy myself.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, that was my interview with Matt Dmits. I'd like to thank Matt for his time. Thank you for listening. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast on iTunes, please do so when you get a chance. Just go ahead and do a search for Warm Chord Music Podcast. You'll find the music and the podcast up there if you do a search. And then also check out the new website. It just went live a couple weeks ago. That's warmchordmusic.com. There's a page dedicated to the podcast, so you're going to see some photos here and there of the people that were interviewed, a little bit more detail on the episode itself. It's a pretty cool experience. The website was designed by Brandon Moses, a local Detroit artist, and myself. We put it together over a period of months, so I'm really proud of it. I'm hoping that you guys will be into it. There's a subscribe page, which I'd like you to check out if you could, and maybe sign up for it. That'll give me access to just your email and name, really, and allow me to send you some updates on information about the podcast and the music and different things going on. There's a blog on the site that'll tell you what's going on behind the scenes of everything, the music, the podcast. It's all intertwined, really, and that's what this is all about. So you guys help make this possible. I want your feedback. If you've got some ideas for some different interviews, some people you'd like to hear us talk to, or different topics, whether it's different albums that you want to get into and talk about, hey, that's what this is all about. This is all about providing value to you guys for your drive home or to work, or however you listen to your podcasts. I tend to listen to them when I'm driving. So hopefully this was fun for you. Next episode is going to be really, really cool. It's going to be featuring an interview with Ed Golick and Chris Slapnick from Ava Under Fire. So that was a lot of fun too. There's some pretty cool discussions going on in that, some cool stories that I think you'll be into. So again, thanks so much for your support, and we'll talk to you soon on the Warm Chord Music Podcast.